Hello everyone, welcome back to Believer CS Academy, Bengaluru. This is daily news analysis session. In this, we are going to discuss some important 6 to 7 articles from the various newspapers such as the Hindu, Indian Express, and Press Information Bureau. So, do make note of important points which I am going to mention in the classes. They can be very useful for prelims as well as mains. So, the points which I am going to mention in the article and the videos, they are very important in your UPSC also. So, you can just make a note of it so that you can use it in your answers or you can use it in your prelims knowledge. Okay, so without any delay, we start the first article. The first article is about editorial which was present in the Hindu, that is reflections on Baku's NCQG outcome. Okay, this article is basically talking about the outcomes of Baku COP29. Okay, COP29, so COP29 is the Conference of Parties 29 which was held at Baku recently. So it ended with some outcomes. Okay, so this article is titled Reflections on Baku's NCQG outcome. What is NCQG? That is New Collective Quantified Goals. That is New Collective Quantified Goal for Climate Finance. There have been disappointments, but the articles try to explain about different aspects of this one. So key points of this articles are, first one is it talks about climate change urgency. Okay, the article says that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that is IPCC, has said that it has emphasized the need for stronger commitments to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Okay, one of the key outcomes of Paris climate change was to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius from the global pre-industrial levels. If you don't if you are not getting any stronger commitment for other countries, many countries, then you are not going to meet the demand, because at the current rate, if the current policies are projected, then it is going to cause a temperature rise of 3.1 degrees Celsius. Meaning, if you are not bringing any stronger commitments, you are going to breach this 1.5 degrees Celsius, and you are going to breach the 2 degrees Celsius also, and you are going to breach this 3.1 degrees Celsius, which is going to be very disastrous considering the climate change. Okay, so there is a need for stricter actions and commitments. And then finance COP goals, that is COP29 turned the finance COP, meaning finance conference of parties, aim to develop an ambitious financial framework under NCQG, ensuring adequate resources to support developing countries in combating climate change. Okay, it is based on common but differential responsibilities, because the fruits of industrial revolution were borne by developed countries, while the negative aspects of this climate change are being borne by the developing and underdeveloped countries. So in order to compensate for the losses, there should be some form of commitment from the developed countries. Then developing countries financing needs again. So transitioning to cleaner energies, cleaner technologies and renewable energy is costlier for developing nations due to high upfront cost, risks of emerging technologies and limited access to affordable finances. Okay, presently most of the developing countries are dependent on non-renewable energies, because non-renewable energies technology is old and it is cheaper compared to the new technologies which are focusing on renewable energy. If you want to transition from non-renewable energy such as fossil fuels to renewable energy such as sunlight, solar, wind, etc., you need some form of investment, you need some form of finances to bring up new inventory, bring up upfront costs and emerging technologies. For this there is a financing need, and that financing need should be met by developed countries, so that even the developing countries can adjust or adapt to the climate change. Then developing countries have called for accessible financial flows, highlighting the importance of grants over loans and reducing the dependence on expensive debt financing. Okay, so developing countries in this COP29 have requested for focusing on grants instead of loans. What is grants? Grants are in grants there is no repayment, condition. In loans it is a repayment condition, and that too with the interest rate. Okay, so instead of loans you should be providing grants to developing countries because of the work the developing countries are putting on. Then NCQG challenges and outcomes. Okay, so under this, the initially what the developing countries demanded was developed countries initially pledged 1.3 trillion annually by COP2019 to COP29, with the most funds leveraging private finance. However, at present this is seen insufficient and compared to the estimated 5 to 7 trillion required by 2030. Okay, developed countries pledged to 1.3 trillion, but required was 5.5 to 7 trillion. But actually what the what the collected amount is only around 300 billion. Okay, so very sad state of finances. The NCQG is criticized for its limited ambition and lack of actionable mechanisms to address the global inequalities in climate finance. So there are inequalities compared to global south and global north. Okay, there are inequalities between island nations and developed nations. There are inequalities between developing nations and developed nations. Those inequalities were not addressed properly in this NCQG. Okay, and then what is the role of NCQG? The NCQG was expected to enhance financial transparency and equity, but it failed to address the core challenges like providing affordable financing options to developing nations. Okay, whatever the aim of getting 1.7 billion dollars, it is not been 1.7 trillion dollars has been not achieved. So it is obviously going to impact the developing countries. Then, what is the India's role in role of India in this COP29? The India's efforts have been India has been expanding on renewable energy and transitioning to cleaner fuels, allocating substantial funds for green energy in 2024 budget. Okay, there have been many initiatives from government of India such as FAME initiative. Okay, FAME initiative is transitioning from fossil fuel based vehicles to electric vehicles. There have been initiatives on national biofuel policy. There have been initiatives on national EV policies, etc., where it is trying to transition from fossil fuel based vehicles and to renewable energy sources. So India is doing its part. The country's focus also includes supporting green hydrogen projects and electric vehicle adoption, what I just explained. So this is about the article. The article also talks about way forward. What should be the way ahead? Okay, the way ahead is, the road ahead is, when the NCQG aims to provide 100 billion annually, this is seen as inadequate. Critics argue that the NCQG lacks the urgency and equity necessary to address the climate change effectively. Therefore, there should be stricter commitments. There should be a commitment beyond 100 billion annually, and there should be global cooperation and a shift towards equitable financing are required to meet the goals of Paris Agreement. Okay, that financing must be equitable, meaning the countries who have reaped the most benefit out of global warming or industrial revolution, they should be the ones who should be providing more finances, and the countries who have suffered more should be the ones who should be getting financed by these countries. Okay, and in the conclusion, article says that it underscores the pressing need for enhanced financial mechanisms to support developing nations in their climate efforts. It also highlights the shortcomings of NCQG and calls for more equitable and ambitious climate finance solutions, what I already discussed. Then second article is about it is related to COP29 only. This is an editorial present in the Hindu. It is rethinking representation for meaningful COP30. So whatever is happened in COP29 is over. Next to COP30 will be happening, and what should be the aims of COP30? Okay, what should be the demands, or what should be the objectives of COP30, so that it becomes more meaningful than COP29. Okay, so like COP29 is ended. The other says that many of the people felt that COP29 was a failure, a disappointment, a disaster, and critics have often pointed out that the business as usual does not work. Okay, they said that COP29 has been unfruitful. COP29 has been disappointing. Now the COP30 is set to be hosted by Brazil in Belém next year. Okay, Belém is a city in Brazil. COP30 will be hosted there. So the author is trying to provide some recommendations or suggestions so that the COP30 becomes more useful. In this article, initially critiques the limited progress of COP29 in addressing the climate issues and proposes innovative ways to improve global climate negotiations at COP30. It highlights the absence of a unified global authority and failure of traditional negotiation methods to represent diverse political, economical, and social interests effectively. So according to this one, some key highlights are: first is, it presented new representation model. Okay, in the article, the author advocates for extending representation to non-human entities. Okay, this is very unique and innovative. Non-human entities such as oceans and atmosphere, to emphasize interconnectedness and environmental rights. It is not like ocean is going to come and sit in the meeting. It is a metaphorical way that certain individuals are there who should represent non-human entities such as oceans and atmosphere. Okay, because of climate change, the most impacted or most polluted are the oceans and atmosphere and other non-human entities. So it is not only that human or the biodiversity or the plants which is or the living animals which is affected by like this climate change, even the non-human entities are also being affected. So their concern should also be considered in the COP29, COP30. So this is very unique and innovative. You can use this, that is non-human entities should be represented in any answer in your coming mains. Okay, if there is a question about climate change or etc., you can use this as a point in your mains answer. Then in this one, it is a novel methodology, that is the theater of negotiations was introduced at COP29. COP21 allowed participants to role play as ecosystems or nations, fostering new perspective and reimagining the negotiations. Yeah, that is what I said. Ocean or rivers are not going to compensate. Instead, it is a person who will be representing and is role playing as the oceans or these things. Then there are certain challenges in current frameworks. It points out the current challenges, that is existing negotiation process often exclude marginalized stakeholders and fail to address complex global issues democratically. Okay, in COP20 or COP21 or any COP, okay, previously it focused more on the well-off societies, okay, and marginalized sections of the society or marginalized sections of the world were not equally represented, and it was not done democratically. The countries with the higher riches were the ones who had more say in the climate negotiations before. So now there is a need, there was a non-transparent hosting by economically vulnerable nations, risks eroding trust and fairness in the climate commitments. Okay, because it is not transparent and because it is non-inclusive, the trust in this COP20 or COP29 has been eroded, and there is absence of fairness among climate negotiations. Then call for transparency. This article also called for transparency because the negotiations have been like non-transparent. As a result, the trust in the COP has been reducing in many of the countries. Now the need is to bring back the transparency. The other emphasizes that there is a need for meaningful representation paired with transparency in climate commitments. Okay, it says that hosting COP30 in Brazil could explore representing the Amazon as an entity. Okay, offering a symbolic and practical shift in climate governance. Since COP30 is happening in Brazil and Brazil is known for Amazon River, there should be someone who is role playing as Amazon. There can be someone who is role playing as Atlantic Sea or other seas or other any other forest, etc., so that they can represent or they can present the situations and the problems of these non-human entities also. Then, so this article concludes that rethinking representation and embracing innovative frameworks are crucial in ensuring equitable and effective climate action at COP30. So there is a need for rethinking, reimagining, so that even the COP30 doesn't end up as disappointing, disheartening, etc. This is about article 30. Sorry, another article regarding COP29. Okay, there was another article in the Indian Express. There was another article in Indian Express, that is ICJ begins hearing on landmark climate change case. Okay, so in this article we'll try to understand what is ICJ and what is this case and what can be the implications of this particular case. So it is in news because the climate talks in Baku, Azerbaijan ended with a disappointment for developing nations. As developing nations, developed countries agreed to mobilize only 300 billion annually for climate finance, far below the 1.3 trillion needed. Okay, actually what is needed is around 5 to 6 trillion. What the developed countries agreed initially was 1.3 trillion. What they were able to produce was 300 billion. Okay, so it is way beyond what is necessary for us or what is needed. In response, small island states escalated the issue to the International Court of Justice, which began hearing in December 2, seeking an advisory opinion on countries' climate obligations and legal consequences for non-compliance. Okay, see, because of climate change, who is suffering? These small island nations. Because if the climate change, the global warming is going to rise. If the global warming is going to rise, temperature is going to rise. When temperature is high, ice starts melting. When ice starts melting, sea level is going to rise. When the sea level is going to rise, all the small island nations or the littoral countries are going to submerge. As a result, they are on the verge of extinction. So they have all the rights, all the authority, not the authority, but the right to question these, question the actions of developed countries. Okay, it is because of few developed countries who have taken the profits out of industrial revolution is that we are suffering. So it shows your duty that you should be compensated for our loss. Okay, but what is happening right now, the developed countries are not listening to these developing countries. So that is why they have gone to International Court of Justice, so that if the developed countries are not listening, at least you a court, right? So do something for us. So that is the case here. First we'll understand what is International Court of Justice. Okay, previously around like 4 days back we discussed about another court, that is International Criminal Court. So there should be distinction made between International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice comes under a United Nations. Okay, it is a United Nation body, whereas International Court of Justice is not a United Nation body. That is the main difference. And as the name suggests, criminal, it deals with criminal cases, whereas Court of Justice, it deals with civil cases. Those are the two distinctions. And interestingly, both the courts have their headquarters at Hague in Netherlands. Okay. Then about ICJ, it is the principal judicial body of United Nations, which was established in June 1945 by the United Nations Charter. It began operations in April 1946. It is based in The Hague, Netherlands, making it the only UN organ non-located in New York. Very important fact for UPSC or any other kind of competitive exams. Okay, only United Nations organ which is based out of New York. What are the other United Nations organs? Such as UN General Assembly, UNGA, then there is UNSC, United Nations Security Council, then there is United Nations, what are the other organs? Okay, and then there is ICJ, International Court of Justice, and there are other two organs. Okay, UNESCO, okay, not UNESCO, ECOSOC, okay, UN ECOSOC, and then there is United Nations, some two other organs are there, I forgot those things. Apart, like of all the organs, only ICJ has the base outside of New York. Very important. So its official languages are English as well as French. Then role of ICJ, it settles legal disputes submitted by states according to the international law and provides advisory opinions on legal questions referred by other raised UN bodies and specialized agencies. Then judges, it is composed of 15 judges, each elected for a 9-year term by the United Nations General Assembly and Security Council. The president and vice president of the court are elected for a 3-year terms. Judges are eligible for re-election. This is very important. They are eligible for re-election. 15 judges are there with a 9-year term by the 9-year term. Okay, and president and vice president term is 3 years. Then jurisdiction is all the United Nation members are automatically party to the ICJ statute. Then, but the jurisdiction is only granted if the both parties consent. Okay, suppose there is a case which is filed by Pakistan against India. It is going to International Court of Justice. Yeah, ICJ, India is doing like this. Please look into it. ICJ can look into it. It can give judgment, but that can be only accepted if India also consents. Okay, if India doesn't consent, then it becomes null and void. So it is non-binding in nature. So somewhat you can say that its role is only advisory in nature, recommendatory nature. Since it is non-binding, no one is going to care about this one. Then ICJ rulings are final and binding with no provision for appeal, though they may be subjected to revision if facts emerge. Okay, it becomes binding only when both the parties consent. Okay, if one party is not consenting, it is not binding. It is very important. You have to make a clear distinction here. Okay, if the both parties consent, then it becomes binding. If only one party is consenting, then it is not binding, and they are not going to follow this one. Then, okay, back to the background to the case. The case is certain small island countries have gone to ICJ complaining about developed countries that the outcomes of Baku 29 are dissatisfactory, okay, non-satisfactory, and what the initial 1.3 trillion was agreed, it has not been met. Okay, so background is initially it is Vanuatu. Vanuatu is a small island nation in Pacific region, Pacific Ocean. Vanuatu initiative, United Nations General Assembly resolution, which was led by Vanuatu, seeks the ICJ's advisory opinion on countries' climate obligations. The resolution, which was co-sponsored by 132 nations or 132 countries, was passed on March 2023, and it has been in court since March 2023. But still, ICJ is yet to provide any judgment on this one. Okay, what are the key questions asked in that case? First one is, what are countries' obligations under international law to protect the climate? Okay, and second one is, what are the legal consequences for failing to meet their obligations? So the Vanuatu or the resolution of United Nations has asked ICJ to answer these questions. What are the countries' obligations for climate change? Okay, is it equal for everybody or is it different from different countries? if there are certain obligations, what happens if they don't perform their obligations, what happens if they don't meet the demands, okay, what will be the punishment for those things. So these questions will be answered by ICJ. What about India? So India, it was not a co-sponsor, okay, it was not among 132 countries who co-sponsored this initiative, but still it is set to present its position in December 5, emphasizing diplomatic efforts over the judicial approaches. So it was not a co-sponsor, but it is going to present its position in December 5. You have to wait and watch for tomorrow. Then significance. What will be the significance of this one? Impact of ICJ opinion. Okay. So though the opinion is non-binding, the opinion could reshape the global climate governance by expanding legal climate obligations and highlighting the consequences for non-compliances. Okay. Then historical emissions. Developed nations are largely responsible for the historical emissions under UNFCCC, but have failed to meet their commitments, which I already discussed. Then there will be broader legal framework. Okay, ICJ's opinion may extend obligations beyond the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement, strengthening the claims for smaller island nations and climate damage compensation. Okay, so because there is damage because of climate change, they should be compensated. Who? The developed countries should compensate the developing as well as small island nation countries or underdeveloped countries. Then global precedent. Okay, this ruling by ICJ can set a global precedent. The ruling could influence thousands of climate lawsuits globally, including those by the European Court of Human Rights and Indian Supreme Court, which have recognized climate impacts as human rights issues. Okay, if there is any outcome or if there is a judgment given by International Court of Justice, you can see many lawsuits or many PILs in the Supreme Court of India also. Okay, see, the International Court of Justice has given a ruling like this, and why is Indian government doing like this? It is obviously non-binding. Even then, there can be public interest litigations in Supreme Court. Okay, this will be the impact of ICJ's ruling. So this is about this editorial. Next, Banking Laws Amendment Bill 2024. Okay, it is in news because it was passed yesterday. Banking Laws Amendment Bill 2024 was passed by Lok Sabha after a week-long deadlock, marking the first major legislative achievement of the winter session. Okay, so in the winter session, which is for 3 months, it has been constituted almost. It has been in session for almost 10-12 days. Even after 10-12 days, this is the first major legislative outcome or achievement of winter session. It was introduced by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The bill aims to modernize and streamline banking regulations. Very important. So you'll understand the key provisions and you'll understand the difference between old provisions and the new provisions. First one, key provisions are, it redefines the fortnight for cash reserves. Okay, previously fortnight was 14 days from Saturday to the second Friday. Now the new definition, it is 1st to 15th and 16th to the month's end. Okay, initially it was 14 days from Saturday to the second Friday. Now it is differentiated. Impact is, it is going to changes how banks maintain cash reserves with the RBI. Okay, what are cash reserves? There are two cash reserves. One is CRR, another one is SLR. What is CRR? Cash reserve ratio, which will be kept by banks within themselves, and another is SLR, that is statutory liquidity ratio, which will be kept by kept in Reserve Bank of India. Okay, these will depend upon this fortnight time. So now they will be changing again. Then directors tenure in cooperative banks. In old rule, there was a maximum of 8 years for non-chairman directors. New rule, it has extended the tenure for 10 years for non-cooperative banks. For cooperative banks. Then common directors in cooperative banks. In old rule, directors could not serve on multiple boards. Okay, if you are a director of a particular board in a particular cooperative bank, then you are prohibited from serving as a manager in or director in another bank. But in new rule, it has prohibited this one. It has removed this provision, and it has allowed directors of central cooperative banks can serve on state cooperative bank boards. Only this provision. Only if you are a director on the central cooperative bank, then you can also be a director on the state cooperative banks. Okay, but any other banks, any other cooperative banks, if you are a director, then you are not allowed to become director of another bank. Only exception is this one. Then increase the threshold for substantial interest in companies. Okay, old threshold was shares worth over 5 lakh or 10% paid up capital were the threshold for substantial interest. Now threshold is, it has been raised to 2 crore with the government adjustments. Okay, so highest threshold is, previously if the shares were over 5 lakhs, then you would get 10% paid up capital or 10% paid up capital, you would come under interest rates. Now it has been increased to 2 crores. Then nomination rules for deposits and lockers. Old rule was there was only one nominee for deposits. Who is the nominee? You have maintained a bank account in a certain bank. Okay, there is a fixed deposit in your name. You are like depositing certain amount as a term of 5 years or 10 years, etc., etc. Suppose unfortunately, because of some various reasons, you die. Okay, when you die or when you die, there is some nominees which will be there will be nominee which will be presented in your bank account. In case you die because of some unfortunate events, all the money which is present in that fixed deposit or in your account will be transferred to that particular nominee. Okay, that nominee can be either your wife or your husband or your father or your mother or anyone. Initially there was only one nominee. Okay, but new rule has increased those nominees to 4 members. Okay, there can be 4 nominees and it allows successful nominations for lockers. Okay, why 4 nominees? Okay, initially what happened is you die, your nominee will get all the money, but now you die, your husband, you are going to die, like not that you are going to die, suppose you die, then it is going to be your wife. Suppose your wife also dies because of some unfortunate reasons, then that money used to be saved in the bank itself, and it was like a worthless. It used to go to IEPF. What is IEPF? Investor Education and Protection Fund. It used to go to IEPF fund, which was used by government for various purposes. Now your money and your wife's money, it is not being transferred to your kids. Okay, suppose you have kids, because there is no nominee present in that, and both the nominees and the account holder is dead, the money used to go to IEPF. Now they have increased this nominee number. So husband and wife is the nominee, and the next in that line will be your daughter, your son. So there will be 4 nominees. In case unfortunately you die, your wife dies, or etc., etc., dies, so the 4th person is eligible to get the account or get the money in your account. So it is kind of positive, and there can also be negatives also that we'll not going to discuss. Then unclaimed amount settlement. Okay, so that is what I said. The nominee is there, another one is there, so both die, and those accounts are called as unclaimed accounts. So there will be unclaimed dividends that will be transferred to IEPF after 7 years. Previously, after 7 years, if no one is claiming the dividends, if no one is claiming the account like money in that account, then that used to go to IEPF, that is Investor Education and Protection Fund. Okay, the government is going to use this fund for some welfare schemes, etc., etc. Now it has extended this provision to unclaimed shares, bonds, and unpaid interest, allowing claimants to retrieve funds. Okay, now it is like apart from dividends, it is also increased to or extended to unclaimed shares, bonds, and unpaid interest, which is allowing the claimants to retrieve the funds. Next, auditor remuneration. In the old rule, okay, auditor, who is the auditor? Who is going to audit? Who is going to check the working of a particular bank? Previously, the auditor remuneration, that is salary of auditor, was fixed by RBI. Okay, RBI fixes auditor salary, fee in consultation with the government. In the new amendment, banks can now set an auditor fees independently. Okay, so government's control over the banks are reducing now. So what are the key takeaways out of Banking Laws Amendment Bill 2024? So obviously the banking law is aiming to simplify cash reserve regulations and director tenures. It is enhancing the flexibility in nominations and addressing the unclaimed funds. It empowers banks to decide auditor remuneration. It strengthens cooperative banks and raises threshold for sustainable substantial interest. So it is a good move which is going to have positive impacts on banking, but we have to wait and see how it is implemented. Then next, moving on to article number 5. Article number 5, it is more from prelims perspective, that is World Wildlife Conservation Day. Why it is in news? It is in news because World Wildlife Conservation Day is celebrated on December 4, that is today. It reminds us to focus on preserving and protecting critically endangered species in India as well as globally. So the theme for this year is connecting people and planet, exploring digital innovation and wildlife conservation. Okay, so December 4 is the World Wildlife Conservation Day. Make a note out of it. Take your environment book in biodiversity chapter, note it down. In conservation efforts, note it down. So what is World Wildlife Conservation Day? The key facts are, it is observed annually on December 4th. Purpose is to create, any day is observed to create awareness about the importance of wildlife conservation and the protection of endangered species and their habitats. It was established in 2012 by the United Nations, coinciding with the anniversary of 1948 signing of CITES.
What is CITES? CITES is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. It supports global efforts for wildlife conservation. It aligns with SDG 15 and SDG 14. What is SDG 15? Sustainable Development Goal 15 is life on land. Sustainable Development Goal is life below water. Okay. Then, so under this day, on this day, India declared aims for critically endangered species. Okay. So what are the certain facts about this one is, as of 2023, 73 species in India are classified as critically endangered, meaning they are at the highest risk of extinction in the world. Okay. And then now number of critically endangered species has risen from 47 in 2011 to partly due to better data availability and monitoring. Okay, from 47 to 73 species. So many species have been included in critically endangered from endangered. So maybe it is because of reduction in number, or because now there are better data availability and monitoring. So in India there are 9 critically endangered mammal species, out of which 8 are endemic. Endemic in the sense these are the species found within India only. So who are these 8 endemic species are: Kashmiri stag, also known as hangul, which is present in Kashmir, Dachigam National Park in Kashmir. Malabar large spotted civet, it is like a rodent kind of thing, similar to rat. And then Andaman shrew, it is also similar to rat. You just pause the video and search these animals. They are very beautiful, like weird but beautiful. Then Junkin shrew, Nicobar shrew, Namdapa flying squirrel, large rock rat, and leaf-fletted leaf-nosed bat. All these are mammals. What is mammals? Mammals are the species which give birth to babies instead of putting eggs. Instead of laying eggs, they are going to be birds, and they will have mammal glands. Then, though these animals receive significant attention for tourism purpose, there are only three of the critically endangered species in India. Okay, there are 3 of the critically endangered species in India: lions, tigers, and cheetahs. Asiatic lions in Gir forest are critically endangered. Bengal tigers are also listed as critically endangered. Cheetahs are also listed as part of endangered wildlife. Okay, these are the one of the more more protected animals of the India, and there are also more iconic animals in India. Then, so there is also great Indian bustard, which is a bird facing significant threats due to power lines in Rajasthan. You might have seen the great Indian bustard. So great Indian bustard is one of the largest running birds in the world. Okay, it also flies, but it is more prone to walking. Because of their walking, they are mostly hunted in Pakistan and Rajasthan. So initially, this great Indian bustard, a fact about it was considered to be in line for national bird. Okay, it was also one of the candidates for becoming a national bird, but finally it got defeated by the peacock. But see, from becoming a national bird, now it is facing a threat of extinction. That is how for the conservation, that is how for the that is how for great Indian bustard has been hunted, or how far they have been eradicated from the land. Okay, then there is another article which is present in Business Standard, Down to Earth, that is Marburg virus outbreak in Rwanda. Okay, so there was an outbreak of Marburg virus, or also called as bleeding eye disease, has killed and infected many in Rwanda. Okay, so where is Rwanda? Rwanda is a state in Central Africa. So this is Rwanda. This small thing around the Lake Victoria is Rwanda. Okay, Rwanda. So about what is Marburg virus? It is caused by Marburg virus disease. Okay, so it is a viral infection. It is also known as Marburg hemorrhagic fever. Marburg hemorrhagic fever. It belongs to filovirus family, same as Ebola or filovirus family. And it was discovered during the outbreaks in 1967 in Marburg and Frankfurt, Germany. Okay, and then case fatality rate ranges from 24% to 88%, depending on the strain and treatment effectiveness. So okay, so very fatal. And how does it spread? Is animal to human transmission, spread primarily from Rosettes bat. Okay, so key vector of any kind of very vicious diseases like these bats. Okay, these bats. So Rosettes bats, especially Egyptian fruit bats found in the caves of mines. Okay, so there is Zika virus. So Zika virus, not Zika virus, Nipah virus. Nipah virus is also a zoonotic disease which is found in fruit bats in India. Okay, similar to this one. This one is also zoonotic. What is zoonotic? There is a transmission from animal to human beings is zoonotic. So here Rosetta's bat, which is a Egyptian fruit bat, is a vector for this Marburg viral disease. Okay, there is also human to human transmission. The human to human transmission is due to spread through direct contact with blood and bodily fluids such as saliva, vomit, etc. etc. Also transmitted indirectly through contaminated surface clothing. Then what are the symptoms? Early signs include fever, headache, muscle aches, chills, nausea, vomiting, and severe diarrhea. And then progress to bleeding from various body parts, and death typically occurs 8 to 9 days after symptoms due to blood loss and organ failure. If they are not properly treated, the symptoms are not properly treated, then there will be fatality. There will be fatality. So this one is very important. There is no approved vaccine or antiviral treatment. Okay, there is no vaccine or antiviral treatment. Only supportive care includes hydration, symptom management, and blood transfusions. Okay, there should be continuously water should be provided, that we should be hydrated, and there should be symptom management such as fever should be reduced, and then there can be blood transfusion. Since the blood loss is more in this disease, you can transfuse the blood. So experimental vaccines are being studied but not yet developed. Okay, this is very important. These are very important from police perspective. Do make a note of it. Marburg viral disease, filavirus, no vaccine, no treatment. Okay, zoonotic, African, bats, all these things are very important. Then high fatality rate. Why is it a global concern? Because of high fatality rate. MUD's fatality rate is about 24 to 48%. Makes it one of the deadliest diseases. Spread is ongoing outbreaks are primarily in Africa, but now affecting Rwanda and Tanzania. So there is every chance that it can also turn into a pandemic and then epidemic. Okay, first epidemic, and then pandemic. Okay, so you should take care of this in its initial stage itself. Public health threat, human-to-human transmission and rapid spread pose significant challenges. So economic impact, outbreaks disrupt local economies, healthcare systems, and a global trade due to travel restrictions and quarantine measures. Okay, so there is another article. I know it is a lengthy session, but I am trying to cover as many articles as possible, which are important from prelims perspective and mains perspective. So this article, it talks about windfall gains tax on oil production, diesel export removed. Okay, this is where it becomes very important. So in India, all you read is new tax, that tax, this tax, that tax has been implemented, and that tax has been improved or increased. So you'll be hearing the news like this. But this is a fresh news, that is windfall tax on oil production has been removed. Okay, has been removed. So it becomes very important. So why it is news is, with global oil prices stabilizing and domestic fuel supply improving, the government has decided to scrap the windfall gains tax, ensuring more predictable taxation for the oil industry. Okay, so first we'll understand what is windfall tax. So windfall tax is a levy imposed on companies experiencing unexpected profits due to external factors like market shift or crisis. Okay, if a company or if any sector is experiencing high profits, okay, unexpected profit, suddenly you are experiencing a profit, then the government is like, okay, you are experiencing some profit, give me some of it in the form of tax. That is windfall tax. This is very important. Tax imposed on companies experiencing unexpected profits. Okay, there can be prelims questions directly on this one. What is windfall tax? Then there can be some 4 options, and the correct option will be this one. In India, it was introduced in July 1, 2022, targeting the domestic crude oil production and exports of diesel, petrol, and ATF. So the tax was aimed to capture windfall profits and ensure adequate domestic fuel supply amid rising global prices after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So that is not necessary for us. So the tax was imposed as a special additional excess duty, that is said on crude oil, additional excess duty, or road and infrastructure cess on fuel exports. These are the taxes. Initially, tax was rupees 23,250 per ton on crude oil and rupees 13 per liter on the diesel and 6 on the petrol. Not necessary. The tax was regularly reviewed based on the global oil prices fluctuation. Okay, now this has been removed. So what will be the impact of removing windfall tax? So it is going to result in stable tax environment. It is going to boost predictability, encouraging long-term investments in the oil production, and then it is going to, but negative impact is that it is going to reduce the revenue decline. So tax was generating less revenue, falling from 25,000 crore in 2023 to 6,000 crore in FY 2025. Then oil companies are going to get profitable, increased profit for oil producer like ONGC and Reliance Industries, as they no longer have to pay the levy. Then it is going to encourage domestic production, that is, it promotes higher domestic oil production and exploration. Okay, policy confidence, it signals that India is confident that stable global oil prices and future supply is there. Okay, so if this encouraging domestic production and oil companies are getting more profit, there can also be a situation where they are going to reduce the petrol prices and diesel prices. So who is it going to benefit? It is going to benefit common people like us, okay, who are traveling on the bike, cars, etc., etc. So if the oil prices are reduced, if the fuel prices are reduced, it is a good thing for us and all. So finally, a good thing from Finance Ministry or Government of India. So these are the articles which I wanted to discuss in today's class. If you like the video, if you think you got something out of the video, if you think it is important, if you think you are getting some sort of benefit out of the video, please hit the like button. Also comment on it and share with your friends. If you are new to the channel, subscribe on the channel and also hit the like button so that you don't miss a notification on videos like this. Okay, with this I will end the video and I will end the session. Jai Hind.